Hi everyone, it's Sandy, and today I'm filming my January wrap-up, so I'll be talking about all the books that I read in January. A new thing that I'm doing this year is that I'm going to start off my wrap-ups by giving out some stats. So in January, I read 5 books, 4 were physical books, 1 was an ebook. I did not read any audiobooks, and the total pages that I read is 1,822 pages. My average rating is a 3.8 out of 5 stars, and 2 of the books that I read are library books. The very first book that I finished in January is There's Something About Sweetie by Sandhya Menon. This is a companion novel following the brother of one of the main characters in When Dimple Met Rishi. You don't have to read When Dimple Met Rishi in order to read this one. The story is told in dual point of views. Ashish, who is the brother of Rishi, was recently cheated on by his girlfriend, and now he is completely heartbroken over it. After one of his friends recommended to him that he should have his parents set him up with a girl, which is the same way that they did with Rishi and Dimple, Ashish decides to go through with it. This is where he meets Sweetie, who is also Indian American. She's a track athlete and she's also a fat main character. I do want to give trigger warnings for fat phobia and cheating in the story. This is definitely my favorite book from this author. The romance was super cute and I loved the main characters. I especially love Sweetie. She radiates confidence and it's so empowering to see her happy and confident with her own body. And also just knowing that she's enough. She's mature, kind, and sassy, whereas Ashish is charming. He can be vulnerable and he just wants to give love and be loved, and he's just a precious cinnamon roll. I do like that Ashish and Sweetie were pretty upfront and honest about why they wanted to date the other person in the first place. They are both consenting to this parental agreement, and for the most part, I just really enjoyed seeing their honesty and the way that they communicated with one another. Their dates were cute and very heartwarming to read about, and I love seeing how Sweetie got Ashish to connect more with his Indian culture. Another great thing about this book are the friend groups. So Sweetie and Ashish both have their own individual friend groups, and I just really love seeing their friends in the story and seeing how supportive they were of the main characters. Since Sweetie is a fat main character, she deals with a lot of fat phobia, especially coming from her own mom. While Sweetie has always been happy with her own body, she did struggle when it came to dealing with her mom's fat phobia. It made me so angry to see some of the things that her mom would say to her and the things that her mom would prevent her from doing. And the mom's reasoning is that she doesn't want other people to make fun of her daughter and that she wants the best for her daughter, but clearly Sweetie is just miserable and unhappy with her mom's behaviors and restrictions. But overall, I loved her journey throughout the story and seeing her just trying to prove to her mom that she's enough and that how much she weighs or the way that she looks does not matter. So overall, I rate this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The next book that I read is Belle Revolte by Linsey Miller. Thank you so much to Sourcebooks/Fire Reads for sending me a copy of this book to read in exchange for an honest review. This is a standalone fantasy book following 2 main characters, Emily and Annette, and they both trade lives with one another in order to pursue their passions. Emily was born into a noble family and she wants to become a physician, while Annette is a peasant and she wants to study the midnight arts, which is a type of magic in this world, but she is too poor to attend a school. So when she is approached by Emily to switch places so that Emily can pursue the noonday arts to study medicine, Annette is unable to resist the offer. As for trigger warnings, there are sibling deaths that happen on and off the page, there are executions that occur, there are references to child neglect and abuse, and there's also discussions of drowning. The story also contains violence, murder, gore, and medical neglect. I did get all those trigger warnings from the author's notice on Goodreads. I really love the different representations in the story. One of the main characters, Annette, she's asexual and she knows it. We have another side character who is transgender. There are a couple of sapphic relationships portrayed throughout the story. There are also non-binary characters throughout the story that uses they, them pronouns, but they are pretty minor characters. And I also really like the rebellion aspect in the story as well, and how these 2 main characters get involved in the rebellion. Whenever people use magic, it has a toll on their body. So there are hacks in this world, and hacks are individuals that use their own body and their own magic and pretty much sacrificing themselves for other people, typically royals and upper class, that don't want to face the consequences of using magic. And so the king in this world has been doing a lot of shady stuff with the hacks, and a lot of people don't like it. And so there's a rebellion going around surrounding the king's actions and the use of hacks, because a lot of hacks are pretty much dying because of the toll on their body due to the use of magic. I do wish the world was a bit more fleshed out. I found the magic system to be pretty confusing. Like I mentioned in the synopsis, there are 2 different types of magic systems. We have the noonday arts, which is a medicine focused type of magic, and then we have the midnight arts. And the midnight arts, there are 3 different types of magic within that system. So I understood the different types of magic, but I didn't necessarily understood how they worked. While reading this book and whenever the characters would do magic, I just kind of had a difficult time trying to visualize it in my head. And another thing I didn't like is that concerning the name of the rebellion. So the name of the rebellion rebellion is Laurel, and it's pretty much used by everyone who's involved in the rebellion. There are multiple Laurels in the story. They obviously have their own names, but they're referred to as Laurel because they're part of the rebellion, and that just made it really confusing to distinguish which character is which. It just made it kind of difficult to understand what was going on in the rebellion because there are so many people involved in it, and there are so many side characters that are involved in it. It just made it confusing trying to figure out who these minor side characters are and understanding where the information is coming from. So overall, I would rate this a 3 out of 5 stars. The third book that I finished this month is The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. I finally read the third and final book in the Folk of the Air trilogy. I do have an entire reading vlog dedicated to this book, so if you're interested in hearing some of my live thoughts and reactions, then definitely check out that vlog. I will leave a link to it down below in the description box. Since this is the final book, I feel like there's not a lot that I can say without giving away spoilers, so my review on this book is going to be pretty short, but I did really enjoy it. I was hesitant about it, and I thought I wasn't going to like it as much as I did because I really didn't enjoy the second book. Jude has definitely become one of my favorite characters. I love her. I just love how fierce she is and how she stands up for herself, and I love the position that she's in this book. There are also a lot of unexpected things that happen in this book, especially concerning a snake. I am pretty satisfied with how things wrapped up. I did rate it a 4 out of 5 stars. I didn't love it enough to give it the full 5 out of 5, but it was still a really enjoyable read. The fourth book that I read is Permanent Record by Mary H.K. Choi. This story centers around Pablo, who is an NYU dropout, and he works at this 24-hour bodega. Pablo is Korean and Pakistani, and he's currently in a lot of debt, and during one of his shifts, this girl named Liana Smart walks in, and she is a pop idol. At first, he doesn't know who she is, but then he realizes who she actually is. Liana is Mexican and white, and they pretty much immediately hit it off. For trigger warnings, there are a lot of discussions on debt in the story, and there's also anxiety and depression. Back in December, I believe, I did read Emergency Contact, which is the author's debut book, and I didn't enjoy it very much, so I was hoping that I would enjoy this a lot more, and unfortunately, I really didn't. I pretty much gave it the same rating that I gave Emergency Contact, which is a 3 out of 5 stars. I just think it's kind of her writing style and her characters that I don't really connect with. Even though her books are technically young adult, they do focus on characters that are either in college or characters that are in the typical college age range, so like 18 to 21. The synopsis of the story makes it sound like it's going to be told in dual point of views following Pablo and Liana, but the entire book is just in Pablo's point of view, and I felt like I would have enjoyed the story more if we were to read from Liana's point of view as well. I do really appreciate the debt and student loan discussions that are in the story. That is something that so many people experience. That's something that I'm experiencing. I do have student loans. I'm working to pay it off, and I'm so grateful that it's not as intense as what Pablo is experiencing, because reading about that really stressed me out. Once Liana enters his life, I felt like Pablo dropped everything to be with her, and I just wasn't a huge fan of the romance overall. I felt like Pablo was just dealing with so much shit that the romance just did not need to be in the story. Just reading from his point of view, I'm just like, oh my god, you have so much that you have to deal with. How can you think about Liana? How can you think about love and being in a relationship right now? I felt like the relationship overall was pretty surface level and that there wasn't much depth to it. So overall, I rated the story a 3 out of 5 stars. And the very last book that I finished in January is The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. This is a thriller / mystery that follows 3 main characters, starting with Libby, who has recently turned 25 and learns that she is the sole inheritor to this abandoned mansion. However, this mansion has a dark history, and 25 years ago, police showed up to this mansion to find a 10-month-old baby in a crib and 3 dead bodies in the kitchen. No one really knows what happened to the people that died, but it's believed that these individuals were partaking in cult activities, and the 4 other children that were living in the house went missing. No one knows where they are, and Libby was that 10-month-old baby. The other 2 main characters are 2 of the children that went missing, so the story does have 2 different timelines. With 2 of the main characters, it's in the present timeline, and with the other main character, it's in the past, kind of detailing the story of what happened in this mansion and leading up to the death of the 3 people in the house. There are definitely a lot of trigger warnings for this. There's murder, rape, statutory rape, teenage pregnancy, miscarriage, emotional manipulation, and child abuse and neglect. I did really enjoy the story. It did have kind of a slow and confusing start because, like I mentioned earlier, one of the main characters, their point of view is told in the past. At first I was like, who is this character? I don't care for this character, but honestly that character's point of view is one of the most interesting, mostly because it depicted all the things that were happening in this house, and that was what I wanted to know about. So when I first started this book, I was like, what's going on? I don't quite know what's happening. Once I got through the first 50-ish pages, I started to become really engaged with the story and I didn't want to put it down. What I liked about the story is that once once one thing is revealed, you think like, oh, okay, we're kind of done with that fact. But then something else would come up that would change the facts, and I'm just like, oh my god. So I definitely really enjoyed the revelations that occurred in the story. I do like that with the ending we get closure about what happened in the house, but at the same time the author does hint that one of the main characters is going to pursue something, and I don't quite know how to feel about it. And overall I rated it a 4 out of 5 stars. So those are all of the books that I read in January. If you've read any of those books, please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Bye!